camera running?
Yep.
Okay.
Smile. Get your hair fixed just right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Get a little Simonize on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Bethany,
How are you?
good. How you doing?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah, right. I did it once. It was a $75 upgrade. It's like, okay. $10,000. It's like, no. I'm good. No.
You just put
So my wife's German, and her dad's full-blooded German. And she has family with her. So we're gonna go stay with them. So she's always wanted me to go. Guess I'm good.
Well, I guess it is time to get started here. We still have about 30 seconds. So call this meeting to order. And thank everybody for coming out tonight. And hopefully we don't bore you too much this evening. So have both of you looked over the minutes from the previous meeting?
Mhm.
Is there any corrections or changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion, we accept the previous month's meetings,
Okay, motion's been made.
not meetings, minutes.
second.
Was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. Ed, guess you're first on the agenda here tonight.
We had 44 calls for service since last council meeting. I have documentation from Flock that I spoke to Chad and Ben about. I'd like for you to go over. It's 44 pages of gibberish that I don't understand. So, I have it right here. I didn't know if you wanted it sent
Good.
email or
However is fine.
yeah.
However is fine.
So
Okay.
they're wanting us to sign, but I don't know what we're signing.
Fair. I can look through it.
What? I'm sorry, it's not from Flock. It's from NDOT, right, Chad?
Yeah.
So
But it's regarding the block system, right?
it is.
Okay.
And I guess once we obviously go over that one, I think that one is from the LaPorte district.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that Crawfordsville district would probably be about the same with what they're wanting.
Yeah.
So we would only need to have you look at it once.
Okay. Sounds good. I will take a look through it and give you my notes.
How many locations are they listing? And they're just one?
Yeah, so I think one is just for the LaPorte district.
Yeah, that's right. I was just curious. Yeah, because
And then the other three is gonna be the Crawfordsville
Yeah.
district.
Okay.
Yep. Also, I'd like to discuss the manpower for Summer's End Fest. You know, in the past, we've always had a lot of reserves. Now we have one reserve. I just don't think that we need 4 or 5 officers for Saturday. I'm paying them the rate that we pay them, but I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. I think Brooke, you said we're having fireworks rides Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah.
So my question is, if we do 2 officers on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and 3 on Saturday with 1 reserve on Saturday, are you guys okay with that?
Personally, I mean, you know better than what I do on what you need. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I don't think we've ever had a situation that I know of where we've really been low.
So 4 total Saturday?
Yeah, it'd be 4 total Saturday, 3 paid, 1 reserve.
Okay.
Or, I mean, if you,
Are they doing a beer garden Friday night?
Yeah, Friday, Saturday.
Friday and Saturday. So I think we had 0 issues last year at the beer garden. I don't foresee any again this year. Would hope not. But I figured I could put 1 officer at the park, or we'd have 2 at the park, and then just 1 officer would respond to calls
Okay.
outside of the park.
I personally don't have a problem with that as long as you feel comfortable with it. I mean, that's, you know better than what I do or anybody else as far as that goes. So,
What do you think, Ben? Yeah, same.
That's fine with me. So you have 3 Friday night? And then if somebody has to leave, they can leave?
I would have 2 Friday night and 4 for Saturday.
Yeah, but I mean, there'd be 3 on Friday night. Just one be out in town, you said?
No,
And two at the park?
2. Well, I would have 2 on total. 2 Thursday, 2 Friday, and then if one needed to leave the park, they could go leave the park and respond to calls. Or we can have 3 Friday. I don't care.
Yeah, whatever you think is sufficient.
Okay.
I don't know the ins and outs, stuff like that, so that's your expertise. Your paid security.
I don't know, do we need to make that a motion of any kind or just tell it to do his thing?
It's just staffing, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you're all right.
Yeah, okay.
Last thing I have, the Tahoe needs to go in to move over outfitters. Having issues with the radar. Having issues with the printer. It printed the other day 10 tickets right in a row, and that paper is very expensive, so just need to get it in, get it looked at. They also need to look at the rifle rack. It won't open to get the rifle out.
Well, that could be a problem.
That could be a problem, yeah. They also have a box organizer that goes in the back of that Tahoe that someone ordered. They decided they didn't want it. Those new are $2,700. Said they would sell it to us for $1,000. And it's where our AED, ammunition, and everything goes in the back. So it's not just all laying around in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So the total for everything is $1,400 for all of that.
Okay, and I didn't look at I'm sure we have that in the budget.
Yeah, I'm sure we have it in one of our budget, in the
Yeah.
police budget.
Was that the 1,400 is for the rifle rack
It's
fixing and
it's for them to
the organizer?
It's $1,000 for the organizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the 400 come in with the? That's
okay. So the radar,
okay.
the printer.
Okay,
the
I'm just
rifle
making
rack.
sure I'm bunching that all together
Yeah,
because that's how I wrote it. But I didn't want. I'm like, is that for the radar and printer
and
fix?
I have
Okay.
and that is So the only thing wrong with the printer is it needs a new printer cable. They come out to $28.
Okay.
We're just gonna reinstall that. Now, granted, nothing's wrong with the radar. So, I think the rifle rack is just something to do with coding,
Mhm.
that they just need to set the code on it. I can open it, I just have to use a key fob every time I wanna open it.
Oh,
Instead of just pressing the button and it pops open.
Sometimes you need to move faster than that, don't
Well, or make sure I have that key fob.
you? That too.
Don't leave it at home.
So, other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, very good. Yes,
I'll make a motion, we approve those expenditures for the police department.
Second.
motion been made and seconded. We approve your expenditures. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You got it.
Thank you.
Okay. See, Kenny's not here, right? So, Mike, I think you had, well, I think you're not on the agenda, but you are on the agenda here. So,
Yes.
I don't know if Chad need to speak up first or no? Okay.
Just, I think you guys all know what's going on, so
Yeah.
what the situation is.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have the numbers?
I do, to a certain extent.
You guys have, so on your back.
Yeah, right.
So on the back page of your regular town council update, on the very back, it breaks down just the strip. So, yeah, so just the strip that you guys are talking about. The complicating factor is the way it's quoted, is assuming that he was gonna do the whole parking lot back there, which gets everybody, including him, the best deal, no matter what contractor he uses.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I was explained to me by Crenshaw, if he comes in just to do that strip, well, his guy, he's still got his overhead, then he's got to still got to pay his guys for the day that he comes in, and so he can't get as much done, move in, move out. So that's why if he does it as a standalone, instead of like 6,000, it becomes 12,000. Whereas if he's here for 2 days to do the whole parking lot and he just does that strip as part of it, then it gets lowered down to 6,000. So on that page you're looking at, I've talked to Crenshaw a couple times yesterday, today, to verify he's okay with me distributing those numbers.
Okay.
So it breaks it down so you guys can have the discussion. If he was to do the whole parking lot, that strip would be $5,980.
Okay. Then the 16,924 is the whole
That's
thing.
the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the proposal, you're going to see the 16,924.
Okay.
And then if you break that out, because he shows you the square footage in the proposal of the heavy duty lane.
Mm-hmm.
So then I subtracted that from the total square footage he got, and then that's why I've had to be on the phone with him a couple times, because he's obviously this time of year he's very busy. So I basically did some legwork for him to break it down, made sure he agreed with it. But like I said, if you guys don't agree in principle, then the price it at least gives you a number to go on. As a comparison, Reith Riley, assuming that the town employees and their equipment would get that completely ready to grade, they were at $6,000 to put 3 inches of asphalt down. That quote would put 5 inches of asphalt, which is what it needs for the traffic that drives on it.
Yeah. If you go lesser in several years, you're going to be doing it again.
Yeah.
And costing more. So you might as well do it right to begin with, and then you're one and done for maybe 30 years. You might not even. Have you talked to Kenny?
I have.
Okay.
We didn't
Where
really
you-
talk numbers. He is willing and on board. I know he spoke with Pam. Pam was even, I guess, on board. For Kenny, I don't know. I haven't spoken with Pam, but they were on board to help out. So, which is nice because technically, it's being used as everybody's parking.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, I would love it to be paved, but I just don't have the funds to do it all myself when I know that, if we're going to do that, there's going to be, everybody using it. So,
Have you guys talked percentages?
No, to be honest. You know, obviously he has more folks that live upstairs than what I do in the house.
Uh-huh.
So there's actually more cars of his full-time cars that park in the different spots than what I do. Now, the gym would have, you know, they've got some people that park there, along there, but, you know, we didn't get in that deep. So I guess I kind of wanted to come and at least I know it was just a starting piece on, you know, how do we do it? How do we make it feasible and fair for everybody? Because obviously there is going to be upkeep to it, no matter what, you know. And I think even Kenny and would have to agree that upkeep he would be part of too, because
Correct.
if he's going to be using it, and I don't know about Pam per se, but then again, it's really, I think Pam's just doing it to help out, but you know, Kenny's the owner of the building, not Pam. So Kenny should probably be more involved with the upkeep, in my opinion. I haven't talked to him about that, but that's how I would see it. So
Yeah, because you're probably looking at seal coating every
2-3
so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would probably get it striped and get it, you know, get specific spots. So
The striping is in that proposal.
it is.
Yeah, the total.
Now, I see the image, Chad.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about, does it go back here right at, when you walk out the back of this building? Would that be paved?
Well, it's part of that's already paid right behind the building.
It is.
Yeah, it's back to the
I
pole.
I couldn't remember how much
Yeah,
of
so
that.
basically it's set up to be where our asphalt stops. Do a saw cut,
Okay.
join it with the asphalt that the town
So
already
the dumpster that's back there is setting,
has. On
that's,
stone, right?
that's on stone.
Yeah. There's basically a place where Melanie drives through between the town hall and this pole back here.
Yeah.
And that's paved.
Yeah.
And then once you get south of this utility pole back here, it's stone.
Yeah.
That's where his dumpsters are.
Yeah.
Whatever dumpsters are back.
But we are doing more than just straight line. We are going over to the east also, correct? Where the stone is.
Well, what you guys are really discussing is mainly that I didn't print those until where is that strip going down the middle. Because that's shared by, that's being shared by.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
There's like three blocks. We're mainly discussing the center block.
That's why I split that down to 6,000. Now, if you guys want to discuss a split on the parking lot, you know, whatever, right?
There's 3 blocks, basically.
Yeah.
Two, 3.
Okay.
Mainly discussing that center.
Yeah, because the center is 5 inches. The spots on both sides is 4 inches. So you won't see the heavier traffic. It's like right now when the garbage truck backs all the way down here to pick up the toter out here. Multiple semis are backing down for deliveries. They don't get obviously all the way to us, but so you don't want to short that center lane.
Right.
It kind of sounds like we need to hear what you and Kenny put together as far as who's willing to pay what percentage, and then
Yeah, and, you know, I don't really know, I guess, when we talk about percentages, like, you know, is it, what's your take on just the strip, or what's your take on doing the whole thing, as far as?
I would say
Granted.
the strip, not the entire parking lot.
Okay.
Only because the signs out there are specific that
Yeah.
unless I'm going to one of these places,
Yeah.
my car's getting makes
Right.
sense.
Unfortunately, I can't make it that, or it opens me up to liability, because
Yeah.
if somebody comes out,
Mhm.
you know, the bar,
I understand.
falls, you know, so. Even
Plus, if
though
you
it's
have
kind of
renters,
a,
they need parking. It'd be
Yeah.
nice to have off-street parking. So.
yeah, and that's where, you know, before I kind of just let it go. I don't get, you know, the only thing I get upset about is when people park right behind the door of the house. You know, and it's like, come on. And it's usually the full-time tenants, not the bar patrons. Bar patrons come and go, they're done, you know. So, and what I'm hoping is Kenny would, you know, maybe do some sort of a split or something with me with that, you know, I don't even know. You know, he hadn't seen the numbers, you know, so, I would like to get the whole thing done. It's just, you know, for depending on what we get figured out on the main strip, the rest of it may be like a little too much for me if I'm gonna have to be the one putting 3/4 of the money in. Which I don't feel like I should, but that's, you know. And then, with that all being said, we would have to probably, since, you know, and I know it's coming, obviously if the town, pays for a portion of the main drag, we would have to write something up as a quote unquote rite of passage, correct me if I'm wrong, council. But do something, some rite of passage way that we would all sign stating, hey, I'm not gonna put a fence up, you know, because.
And I like the idea of also putting in your agreement for what you're gonna do on maintenance and stuff down the road
Yeah.
with that too. Have it run with the land, that way it's a little bit more enforceable
Yep.
later on.
Now, one of the things I know Chad and the town has kind of, you know, all tried to help out, you know, and they've really helped me out, but during snow, when they're pushing the lot, you know, they would kind of push it clear over to the gas station and was allowed to do that. I would like to see if that would be something that I could maybe still work out with you guys if I kept the, you know, Kenny and I agreed to keep the seal coated if we could, you know, somewhat keep it opened up, I guess. If that was it.
It's paved. That's not a problem. But from my end, that's up to you guys with my boss.
Yeah, just I would understand that if there's cars parked back there, we're gonna do just the strip.
Oh, yeah.
instead of-
Yeah, no, and that totally.
Unless you tell them to
Yeah, no.
might move your car or whatever.
Yeah, and it's hard, that's hard, because
Yeah.
it's hard enough getting everybody parked, you know?
I know.
So,
I just
I'll
don't.
do that on the street.
Want us to tell you, yeah, we'll do that, and then the first snow, you're like, hey, you didn't plow with it.
Oh, no.
The cars are gone. You didn't plow, just like the main strip.
Yeah, the stone made it so hard to not pick up a lot of stuff. So yeah, if it's paved, it'd make it a lot easier on us.
Have you thought yourself what percentage you'd be willing to do?
I mean,
I mean, of course, the town, basically, this is ours here, and this is what we normally use. That would be just additional
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah.
So basically, we'd be helping to pay for your parking lot,
right,
basically.
Yeah.
So I think we're looking for what possibly you are thinking, and you could think you could work with Kenny with.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah. I think it would probably be something where, you know, if we could get, depending on what with Pam, there again, that's, I don't know, but if Kenny and I can split it or whatever, figure something out, maybe not totally 50-50, but, you know, 40-60 or whatever that may be, and then we all come together on the main drive, that would be nice. But, you know, here's the thing. I realize that's my lot, and it sits in between my two buildings. However,
We use
you know,
it.
everybody uses it.
yeah,
The town uses it, you know. So it's kind of a main thoroughfare to get from point A to point B when it's gonna be hard to go back out on 26. You know, if I were to say, okay, well, if you don't wanna play ball, just put a fence up. I don't wanna do that. Cause it's a pain in the ass for me, excuse my language, but it is.
Gooch,
I know, sorry.
the world is watching.
Yeah.
Millions of people. Mike Gokenauer, by the way.
You want to sit down here so you can see you better?
Parental advisory at the beginning of this. Go back in and edit that.
I'll go cut that out tomorrow. Okay.
But no, I want to keep being able to use it, even myself. It makes it nicer to run through there with a truck or a trailer or whatever and do stuff when the whole lot's open,
Sure.
So I guess the next step would be, I probably need to take this back to Kenny and maybe meet him up there. I don't know, maybe, meet with one of you guys or Chad first, and we kind of talk about probably Chad, and then we can discuss the logistics of it and how everybody's what everybody's thoughts are and everything. So,
I gave him that packet that you gave me for that too.
What's it? Oh, the whole packet.
That,
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
send you another.
That's
Yeah, if you want to meet with him, see what you guys can come up with.
Yeah.
And what you think is fair.
Yep.
And then we'll hash that over. I think, we can talk about it all night, but until we come up to, where you're at.
Yeah.
I don't think we know for sure where we're at.
Right.
So,
I'm on board for at least the main strip. Definitely on that. As far as the percentage, it would be nice if, Kenny and Pam and, maybe we look at all kind of equally spreading that out.
mhm.
I don't know that. I don't know how that's going to work or if that's going to work, but something like that, at least on the main strip. And then Kenny and I discuss what we're going to do on the rest of it.
Uh-huh.
So, because there again, he says he wants to help out, but I don't know what help that is.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I would probably have to do some sort of a interlocal agreement with him saying, hey, it's okay that his tenants park there now that he paid that. Which I don't think that would still be a liability on me, but that's something you'd have to figure that out.
Yeah, once you put together something there between you guys, see what you're comfortable with, and we'll kind of go from there. Matter of fact, if you want, I suppose, if you do it before the next meeting,
Yeah.
that's fine. Let Brooke know where you're at.
Yeah.
Then maybe we can have us a little special meeting or something to kind of hash that out and have you come in and
I'll figure
do
that
that.
out.
So, because probably the sooner the better, honestly. So, I don't know how busy. You said Crenshaw's pretty busy, but
Yeah.
don't want to wait till December to do it.
Yeah.
So, because he couldn't get it done then.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
That works for me.
Okay.
With him.
Okay. Work for you guys?
Mhm. Good
Okay.
idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Appreciate it. If you guys want to cover the whole thing, that's fine too, but I said if you want to cover the whole thing, that's fine
Oh,
too.
no.
No, we're willing to help you out.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, okay. Chad, looks like you're.
Well, I actually want to put Mike on the spot while he's sitting here.
Oh,
Yes.
I
okay.
apologize. I did not ask. I meant to ask you.
I
about
know what
this
you're going to
earlier.
ask, and I still have not had a meeting yet.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
Yes, I was going to bring it up. So
Yeah.
he's regarding the question to the town,
the town, the park, the
town,
town.
park, the township property. Yeah. So we did talk about it. Just we can't. Nobody's schedules have allowed it yet. So I'm hopeful in the next month we can get that hammered out and then come up with something. I don't know. Have to come up with some agreement on that. So, and I don't know if that's something she can do, or I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Hi, I'm Bethany. Nice to
Bethany,
meet
yeah,
you.
Bethany. If Bethany can help out, but maybe make up something that would allow us to gift that and, you know.
Okay, okay.
At the same time, can you ask about the fund for Parks and Rec
Yes.
that the township has?
Yes.
Because if the township's not gonna have
Yeah, I don't
a
know
Parks and Rec grounds, I don't.
what we're gonna have to do with that, because I don't know how that all works when you take something out of, out of that, if we still keep that, and part of those taxes, since we don't really have, you know.
Well, we were hoping you could just, we could have an agreement where you could
Fund
fund some of
projects.
that, fund projects on
Mhm.
it, where we could,
Yeah, 'cause I think the township put in money for the new shelter house too, didn't they?
they did. Yeah, I don't know the exact amount, but.
Preparation for the new shelter house, yeah.
Curious how much is in that fund, because we have some preparation work for grounds
I
for
know,
possible trail maybe.
well, and one of them was a possible dog park.
Yeah.
Because I know Gary was really wanting to do a dog park at the far end. So, which I don't know really what that looks like. I mean, it was just mainly a fence with grass and,
My big question on that is who cleans it up? If
Yeah,
if
who
the owner
maintains
does
it?
it.
Owner, yeah.
well, that's,
Well,
yeah.
In an ideal world.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how the other dog parks around in Lafayette and other places work, but that would be my big question there,
Well, a lot of them, at least with apartments and townhomes and everything, they've got AstroTurf. And then they've got irrigation that kind of hits that and washes. Now, it doesn't wash everything away. Your solids don't wash away, as Chad knows. But everything else washes away, supposedly.
You test it, Chad? You tested it?
No, I have not tested
Oh.
it.
So,
But I can imagine, based on prior experience with sewage, that what he's saying is true. So,
Moving on.
So yeah, that's one thing that we were going to discuss before we did that.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then that's a great lead, because part of your taxes is Ross Township goes into that fund. I mean, it goes into several funds, but I don't know how all that goes when we don't. I don't know. State Board of Account question, I think.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, the dog park I would leave up in the air, only because we haven't met with the potential developer yet.
Yeah.
Out the ground to the east, and I would like to at least have his input. I don't know what's going to go in that back corner, but I don't want to put something there that he's like, oh, I don't like that idea.
Yeah. Prior,
At least in
maps,
that northeast corner, just kind of leave it
Yeah.
open for now on the east side.
prior maps, if they are still good, had a retention pond in that other area on the other side. But I don't know.
Okay, we'll let you iron that out. So you got two things on your docket now to do, and
Till next meeting.
a little homework here for you.
I love it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, Chad, now it is your turn.
Oh, wait, we got a question?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm not an advocate of having a dog park. I've been around dogs almost all my life. I've trained them, I've judged them in field trials, and sometimes these dogs just turn. They start dog fights. Don't try to get in between the dog fight, even
Yeah.
the little ones.
yeah. There's a lot of
So what you gonna do, put them all on lead and have them on lead?
Yeah.
Usually dog parks let them loose. You know, if you make it a agility type park, then I think you're going to make it a little bit better. But just to open area, fenced in, I mean, basically that's what you got in the ball diamonds.
yeah, and they don't pick up there either.
No,
Yeah.
I've watched them.
Yeah, I like dogs. I've had dogs for a long time, don't now, but there's a lot of questions on that as far as I'm concerned. So
I
yeah,
don't even let my dogs out in the rest stop. just because somebody else's could be there.
Yeah. Okay, well, I say there's a long ways to go before we get into that anyhow, so, yeah. Okey doke. Okay, Chad.
So let's start at the top there with the water department. Finances, not good. I just put not good. So at the back page, as the bills came in, they came in quickly this spring and summer over the main breaks. I have a much more detailed report for you guys that I'd like to meet with you guys individually, whatever, on the budget stuff. But this just gives you a synopsis. At the end of 2024, we were $1,400 in the hole for the year on the water department. So far, we're $57,000 in the hole for this year. So, and that's, I've got a report. I can spend some time going through it. Yes, health insurance went up, but the bulk of it was we spent $20,000 more in repairs for the first 6 months than we did all of last year. So, so I'll have a more detailed report that breaks that down by what we spent more on. So you guys can do budget stuff and that stuff. But I'm genuinely concerned. The other thing when I did this report, and I just did this a couple hours ago, so I'm not putting anything on the spot, but I was a little concerned that the average, if you look under average monthly revenue for the water, and I was trying to remember, when did we do the rate increase last year on the water? The late in the year?
Was it December?
I think it was
I think it's December.
December.
Yeah.
Okay, well that helps a little bit, but if you look there, average monthly revenue for all of 2024, $25,719 through the first 6 months. Now, granted, bulk water season will go on for another 3 or 4 months. So if you notice, it's only $25,728. So if you based on the first 6 months, the rate increase did nothing. But like I said, that average, like we go from, maybe $22,000-$23,000 a month in revenue to almost 30 when we're selling bulk water. So the bulk water is definitely what's helping keep us afloat. So no pun intended. So, but yeah, I did see, and like I said, I just tried to get this cranked out so you guys would see that I basically, any parts that aren't on order, it's that project's been halted on the water department. We just can't spend any more money. So we already had some parts ordered for some other stuff that was a special order, so it's on its way. But anything past that, because we still have to pay Crenshaw. Crenshaw hasn't charged us anything for the patch that we're still working on, trying to get all that bump smoothed out on the east end of town, and the one he did over here. Some of what he's going to send us gets paid out of wastewater manhole, but so there's still more bills, a couple more bills that have to come in. We did get, which probably got receipted after July 1st, the $13,000 check for us putting the hydrant in down here at 207 for the insurance. So that'll help. But yeah, it was concerning. So it was concerning last month, and then when I ran the numbers, it was even more concerning. So I wanted to definitely make you aware of it. So the second thing is the result of our scoring committee meeting for the Okra planning grant last week. I don't remember exactly what the score was. I just know that Strand was number 1, Commonwealth was number 2. I can't remember on third. Was BFNS third? Well, I think BFNS was third, and maybe HWC was 4th. So we initially narrowed it down from 8 engineers to 4. We entered, the scoring committee interviewed 4 last week. And Strand did very well on their presentation. So,
Have we worked with them before?
I have, but not for I have worked with Strand, but not one town related. So I was when I lived in Jefferson. So yeah, I've never worked with this guy, but he came highly recommended from people I know. I will even say Commonwealth wanted to speak with me yesterday. I did talk to them, Maureen, and
Why didn't you pick us?
she was, well, see, keep in mind, I'm a pretty big fan of Maureen and Megan, so I gave them all the information. So I just said that president, probably they needed Brady Dryer was the guy that needed to be here. That's the guy I knew that worked for IBM. Then I even thought of another guy that I met that they hire, their engineering firm hires operators. And I think that's pretty smart, to have retired operators on staff for an engineering firm. So, and one of their operators I've known as long as I've been an operator. He was an operator in Napanee. So we talked about that. So I said that really you brought the wrong guy to the presentation. You should have brought Brady Dryer. He was the guy that worked for IDM and now works for them. So
Yeah, the
But,
president didn't do much good
no,
as far as the presentation.
no. So she did speak very highly of Matt Smith. So in our conversation, she said Matt is an excellent engineer. So that's going from a competing engineer to them. So yeah, I was happy to talk to her. I was going to send her an email anyway because they really put a lot of time into their presentation. So anyway, enough of that. But, so Strand was number one. So,
Okay, I think at this point in time, both you guys were there.
Yeah.
And both you agree that Strand would be,
Right, we've chosen them.
okay, I think we need to just make it official, so,
Okay.
okay. So I will entertain a motion to accept Strand as the engineering firm.
I make a motion to accept Strand as engineering firm for the Oak Grove planning grant.
Okay, do you have a second?
I second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done deal, okay.
and the only thing to add to that, since we had a public meeting, was the need for any, which I'm going to try to solicit some, but for any of you that can come up with letters, basically complaining about the water situation. The main breaks, low. Like Steve, tomorrow you're going to have low pressure when I flush those hydrants down by your house. I mean, stuff.
I had low pressure this morning, so.
Well, yeah.
Well, you need to write a little.
We weren't even close to you, so yeah. But I could see we
I
were.
figured somebody was filling a truck up for the pool water.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the kind. We need letters like that will help with Okra to identify, especially the main breaks we've had on 26 with boil advisories, and just the last two we've had boil advisories for. So like getting one from Milner's for health and safety, that stuff will all help. So stormwater, wastewater, anything that you think is an issue and needs to be dealt with. So
are you gonna do a call out for letters?
yeah, there'll probably be something more official, but I at least wanted to put the word out here that we definitely want basically, I guess for lack of a better, we want complaints. So we normally wouldn't
That's what's-
we wouldn't
that's a little
invite a
different.
lot of complaints, but we want legitimate concerns, I guess, on the water issue, especially the water issue. This planning grant is really being driven by the water department. You'll see when I get to the wastewater's at least financially doing much better. So
I can put some on Facebook. We'll get lots of complaints. Let me know how I can help.
They preferably need to be in letter form, from residents, stating what their concern is.
Not out of town residents.
No, not out of town people.
This specifically would involve people who live here who see things that they need to be dealt with. That's as I understand it, yes.
Email okay too?
I would think so. Yeah, I would sure we try out that now. So yeah, okay. And then that will go with the application for the planning study to Oprah. So, and then ultimately those same concerns, once we apply for funding for those projects, those same concerns also get fed into those applications too. So anyway, sorry. So a lot of the rest of the stuff is updates. We had that was the parts I was talking about. We ordered a couple parts for raising a couple fire hydrants. They were just ridiculously too low in the ground. We got about a third of the system flush. We mainly did 26 all the way to down to the clothes shop and back to Miller's, South Street, schools, hydrants. So that's about a third of the hydrants we got to do. So then tomorrow and Thursday we'll do another portion of it. We had an issue on Saturday, the bulk water fire hydrant, which probably, I don't know, I mean, it probably gets open and closed a couple hundred times a year. So It's a 1983 fire hydrant. Apparently the operating nut just started coming off of it on Saturday. So if you drive by there now, you don't even see a hydrant. There's just a cone there. So basically had to disassemble the whole hydrant. The further in we went, it just needs a complete rebuild. So, since that's, so if you have seen a pool water truck in a different location, that's why. Because I had to send in another hydrant until we can get the parts to fix that one. So, we got our, this is a minor amount of financial compared to everything else, but the lead and copper sample, I did want to, I haven't really, it's been on your update, I haven't really talked about it. So we had high copper at a few of our sites last year. So we switched to phosphate for our corrosion control, which we've always had some sort of corrosion control program since before I worked here. We had switched to something that kept the pipes clean, that promoted. We used to have an issue with biofilms that would phosphate. If you added phosphate for corrosion control, the biofilms would actually feed on that. They were harmless, but people would see it in their water. So we went to this other chemical. Well, it did not coat the pipe as well. So then we had a high copper, no lead issues, but we had high copper. So that triggered us to go from 10 samples to 20 samples. And instead of doing it every 3 years, we have to do it twice a year. 20 instead of 10. Each time we run those, just the cost, not to mention the manpower, because Sean, what you got? A day and a half probably in that by himself, just getting the customers to grab the samples and sending them in, and then once we get the results, then he has to hand deliver the results to each customer. So the cost of the lab is $750 every time we run that test. So now we got to do that twice a year until next year. So we just did it. We'll do it again in December. I think we have to do it all of next year. Then we can petition to go back to every 3 years and to 10 samples instead of 20. So just, like I said, obviously IDM's covering their bases. I totally support that. We need to make sure that we keep those levels down. So, but did want to, just in case, since we had to grab 20, we had to find new sites. So if you've heard about it, that's why. So, on a positive note, we have done, since everything's been so negative, we have had, I guess, summarize 8 new connections we didn't have in 2024. We're going to actually tap the main for the new house, the different spelling of Kirkhoff over here that you guys talked about with the zoning issue. So we actually have to tap the main. There was never a meter pit there. So like I said, a total of 8 connections that we didn't have in 2024. So, the rest of that's updates on the water department. Wastewater. So the wastewater is in the black for the year by about $6,000. That's probably gonna. We just got that manhole done. Some of the costs came out of wastewater. Some of them came out of stormwater. But wastewater is, and then on that sheet, the financial sheet that I gave you, it, like I said, it shows very, but it shows pretty steady. I mean, it's. We were in the black by $25,000 for all 2024. We're in the black by $47,818 to date this year. Our average expenses are holding steady. Went from 2024 average expenses per month were $61,160. Average expenses the first 6 months of this year $62,649. So not a whole lot of change there. So revenue is also pretty steady, which makes sense because we haven't done any rate adjustments. So that's it. Once again, I also have a detailed report that breaks that down by labor, insurance, but we can discuss that more in depth later. So, we finished, well, at least I hope we finished all the heavy repairs on Ross Ford lift station, which is the lift station that's next to Flour Mill. Just put the new pump in last week, replaced the piping in there that was rotted out last couple months. Street sweeping and catch basin cleaning still behind. We now have the back truck back, which is another subject. But so we'll try to start catching up on some of the other wastewater maintenance activities that were delayed due to drinking water demands. So Okay, I've got an invoice for the retainage. I think you don't have to sign anything, but I'll show you the invoice for the community crossings grant for Delphi Road, Otten Road, and South Street. So I think just, he said that there was nothing to sign, just needed a motion to pay that invoice. So,
There you go, just look it over and then you can make a motion. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
What if we don't accept? Just kidding, I know we gotta pay it. I make a motion, we, accept this invoice and pay it.
see if you need the amount, that's.
$17,930.05.
Do I hear a second? Second. You have a motion made and second, all in favor?
Does she want this, or you want this back?
Yeah, give that to Brooke, she can take it out of her paychecks.
Well, you can just, I'll have to,
Got that in my couch cushions. You want that?
you and I have to discuss it.
All right.
Transfers that may have to take place there, so. The back truck, so you see there's a lot of, you might call that minutia there. So basically, it's an old truck that we've changed the way it works to try to make it better. The learning curve has turned out to be pretty steep, but we are working on it. We're, like I said, I still firmly believe the town this size should be very thankful that we even have a back truck. So, so we're just trying to keep nibbling at it. It's not going so well, but the truck does work, so we're just going to use it for the time being and keep tweaking on the issues that aren't working very well as we have time. So, any questions, please let me know. So, so the east of the park. I've not texted him again, but I think I did tell Ben briefly. I had a nice chat after the area plan meeting with Jordan Brewer, one of our county commissioner president, that he would entertain being at a meeting with the developer, or coming to talk to you guys at a town council meeting about growth. And so I was kind of pounding that drum on the growth thing, that would be nice to mitigate some of these issues with some new residents that will pay water bill and sewer bills. So asked me about capacity. I went through all that with him. He apparently wasn't aware we had some capacity to grow. So so anyway, I just wanted to pass that on. So I figured now that hopefully I can get through some of this other stuff, I didn't want to bug Kirkhoff until I knew we all had time to have a meeting, and now I think the prospect of a county commissioner being there would probably be even more. He offered to come to a town board meeting, and I misspoke, but I just said, well, I think the best meeting for you to be at is when they meet with the developer.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that he could come, that we were, nothing we could really do until we meet with them, so.
yeah, so, and then on that note, I did talk to Brett Osler, the county auditor, about because we've been trying to contact the county council about the impacts of Senate Bill 1. It gives you the auditor's phone number. So I called her. She said she would talk to the council about what they're working on about the impacts of lost property tax revenue. And just she said she'd get back to me when she knew more. So, but she said, well, if we open it up to one town, we need to open it up to all of them. So I agree with that. So I did talk to her. Well, it looks like we talked about the Lost Township ground. I will keep you in the loop. I was contacted by our Ethan Ladd, our local guy that helps us with a lot of different things. We're still trying to find a chassis to put a tandem axle chassis either under our hook lift, just to make it more. We're grossly overloading the truck as it is. So he has a tandem axle truck out there from a guy named Ned Metzger that's retired from farming. So just it's on the schedule for next year. So I may need to juggle some things or talk to you guys financially about if we can find a good deal on a chassis this year or something like that, especially from somebody like that where we know where the truck's been for the last 20 years. I may need to talk to you about that next month. So, but But other than that, I think that's it, unless you got questions for me.
Only thing is, got down here about the budget.
Oh, yeah, that was on there from last month. Yeah, I didn't know when you guys wanted to have that meeting or.
Cause I thought you was gonna contact.
I did. Mike Dahl said if you guys set a date, he has some availability, obviously, before they go back to school. So yeah, if you want him at that budget work meeting, then he said that once you guys set a date or find some dates that work for you, then I can pass those on to him and see if he's available to be here. So, but.
Okay. You say we should do this in July, and it is July now, so.
I think you could push it. Oh, I can't remember when you had the one last year.
Well, last year we didn't know I think we got surprised, but we had to do it so early.
Yeah.
I think it went pretty deep,
Yeah,
way
July,
far deep in the year. But,
Usually July, August. It depends on
okay.
how much you need to. You could do it next month. I probably wouldn't wait longer. I mean, she's going to have a meeting with the DLG. When do you have that meeting with the DLGF?
That's going to be the 3rd week of July.
And that's when you find out some potential.
23rd, I think. Yeah.
So it may need to be after that because I think
Okay.
if I remember
What
from.
about Ben, you're off Monday.
I can
What about the 28th?
I can take a day off whenever.
Okay.
If it's a Monday, that's fine. If it's not a Monday, it's fine. I just need to know the Tuesday before the next week if I need to take a vacation day.
I'll text Mike and see if he can meet on the 28th.
Okay, just let us know that we'll set a time and go from there. So, okay. All right. Chad, thank you very much.
Yep.
Looks like next thing is our legal counsel.
Yes. So I have a couple things. One is an update. Chad and I have been working together. We have sort of a rough legal-ish description, is what we're gonna call it, for the stop sign easement. So I got that sent over to Tom Little this week. I ended up getting sick last week, so I did not get it done when I had hoped. So I haven't heard back yet. I don't blame him. That's not his fault by any means. So got that sent over. I also drafted sort of a preliminary maybe update for the burn ordinance. Kind of what I did was I looked at a couple different towns, mostly a little bit bigger towns, because it seems as though just my little bit of research looking at smaller towns, there wasn't a ton of really great stuff. And I also think we want to be a little bit careful as to how restrictive are we, because then if you're going to be really restrictive, I think you have to enforce it too, and that gets a little bit problematic, but also trying to take a little bit more of a common sense approach. So kind of what I came up with was basically explicitly state that, we're prohibiting the burning of rubbish, trash, garbage, stuff like that, sort of really narrow that in, and give you guys some sort of grounds for enforcement on that front. And then from there, also included dangerous materials at any time, just kind of prohibit that altogether. Definitely still want to continue to have the prohibiting burning on the asphalt streets. Something that I came up with, and I'll let you guys, decide whether you think this is acceptable or not, was trying to limit it to unfavorable meteorological conditions, like high wind or stagnant winds. So that was actually something that I found just from a little bit of research into, I think it was the town of Noblesville had something like that in there, which was, I thought, good, because my understanding from kind of what you guys were saying last month was the issue was a little bit to do with the wind trajectory and like where the burning was, kind of the smoke was trailing. Is that true?
Yeah.
That, I mean, it was creating an unpleasant nuisance. And so that was
the lady that called, that's talked to us a couple times down on 26, who is not my friend, and I do not barely even know her, for the record. She did say it was blowing right into her, like they were trying to have a backyard barbecue, and it was blowing right into there.
Okay. Well, and I guess then
it was trash that they were burning and leaves.
Gotcha.
So we need to put something about compost in there if we can, because we provide that.
Okay. Okay.
That might be rubbish.
Yeah.
I don't know what leaves would fall under, but
well, and that too, I guess. I mean, do we allow the burning of leaves seasonally at any point? No.
No.
Okay.
We have compost for that.
Okay.
And we pick them up. And
Yeah.
Then I think, putting leaves in there would be something that's acceptable, but I think then you've got to be real careful with your language too, because at least what I was seeing in the general research that I did was a lot of other towns and cities do very much allow for that organic wood material. So I think if we put leaves in there, I don't want to get to a point where we get too nitpicky where someone's like, oh, I threw one log in there, but this was, this is remnants from trees that I cut or something like that. So I don't know. Open to thoughts and suggestions on that. I don't know exactly what the best way to make sure that we obviously uphold the goal, which is, hey, don't do silly things. Don't be a jerk to your neighbors about, when you're going to do some of this stuff, but also don't limit it so much to the point where you have people trying to jump through loopholes. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'm always a little bit concerned about it.
The language could say ban the burning of seasonal fallen leaves.
Yeah, we could do that.
Then I guess if someone wants to burn
Yeah.
wood that has leaves on it.
Yeah, because we're saying you can have a not a burn pit, or what do we call them?
Fire pit.
Fire pit,
Fire
yeah.
pit. Fire pit. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because a lot of people do have patio furniture sitting around a fire pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went on and so after I kind of talked about unfavorable, weather conditions, basically, I did explicitly state that such that, burning would be a nuisance to, other residents of the town. I also talked a little bit about maybe we look at trying to put in some sort of a minimum of distance that it has to be away from a structure not owned by that person too. In the general spirit of preventing someone putting a, burn pile in the very back corner of their property that really isn't going to impact them at all, but is going to impact the neighbor. But I did put in here that if it's fully contained in some sort of a barrier structure or a fire pit, even I think a barrel would be acceptable if you're talking about, burning limbs or something like that. So I've got drafts of it if you guys want to read through it. I don't think we're probably really at a point where we should vote on it tonight by any means, but it's at least something we probably want in place before the fall and a starting point, I think.
Yeah, kind of touch it up a little bit and go from there. So, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm good with adding language of, seasonal fallen leaves. I think that narrows the scope enough. My thought process, like I said, with the, structure component of it was just eliminate it being in the back corner of someone's property right next to, a shared privacy fence or something like that. I think your liability, not that the town has any liability for that, but if we can prevent neighbor feuds in any possible way, we're probably better off overall. So open to your guys' thoughts, suggestions, feedback, what makes the most sense, but that at least gives us a jumping off point for starting.
Yeah, probably 7,500 feet. I don't know. I'm not sure what the distance is of most lots in town.
I can put something out on listserv and see what other
It's
people's
80 by 140.
ordinances say about that.
Yeah. I
81.
went and I was doing a little bit of drawing on Google Earth because I was already in there doing our legal description. And I kind of just picked a couple randomly, and there was a couple that were like 78 feet wide, just kind of going side to side on the lots. And so, I don't know, I kind of frame it in the mindset of a 2-car garage. A standard 2-car garage is 24 by 24 for the most part. So I went with 30 feet. I'm very open to that being, changed, because my thought process is, and maybe I need to explain this a little bit better, a 30-foot radius. So, it's not 30 feet from me to the tree. It's 30 feet from me to the tree to my neighbor's garage. That was sort of my goal with it.
Yeah, and most fire pits are not. I mean, leaves really have a lot of smoke.
Changed.
Yeah.
Or your fire pits.
So
a lot
I
of
was
times
reading
don't.
it and I'm like, wait, okay. Yeah, it's like that top and then that first paragraph is this something totally separate.
Yeah, that's from the one that we did earlier this year. So
Yeah,
that's
30 foot, 40 foot radius, something like that would be.
Yeah.
You know,
whatever you guys are comfortable with.
because houses aren't generally sitting right on the property line, so
Right.
for the next person, so you do have some buffer there too. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, that'll be fine.
Do we want to split the difference and go 35 feet?
I'm good with it. I don't. Again, most fire pits don't put out a lot of smoke because you're burning
Right.
hardwood and doesn't really,
And there were some that, I saw a couple ordinances that I feel like we've got sort of one of two directions we can go. And I think this also kind of couples with the conversation we had last time about, do we start combing through the ordinances in a little bit greater detail, make it, a couple year project or something like that. So there's a handful that are very like, they're explicit, kind of like what we have currently, that is like one sentence, one paragraph. And then there's also some that will say something along the lines of, they're a little bit more, I shouldn't say a little, they're a lot more restrictive, where they'll say, we prohibit the banning, or we prohibit the burning of, anything barring these exceptions. And then your exceptions are pretty long and lengthy, and they talk about, a fire for cooking food, for, recreational purposes, that you can only burn wood. You've got all of these sort of parameters that you have to fit within in order to actually have it be acceptable. We could go that route. Again, my big fear at that point is enforcement. You can put it all in place, but if we're not then ready to go and enforce that, I think that gets a little bit problematic, which is why I kind of went with something a little bit more pared down and straightforward. Open to thoughts. That is an insight into what my brain was thinking when I did this.
You don't want to ban barbecue grills, things like that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's a little crazy there. So
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to go overboard
Right.
the whole thing, but basically keep from smoking your neighbors out.
Yes.
That's what we're
Yes.
after, so.
That's the person that's gonna enforce it.
My question on the seasonal falling leaves, is it going to leave too much gray area? Because our ordinance book is full of gray area stuff. From the chicken ordinance to everything that I've seen since I've been here, which isn't a lot, but it seems like there's gray area on almost every single ordinance we've been questioned about.
Yeah.
If we say seasonal falling leaves, and they fell in the fall, but they don't burn them until the summer, like the lady over here, and I won't mention her name, did, is she going to say, well, they didn't fall this season, they fell in the fall, I'm burning them in the summer, they're not seasonal, can we just say there's a compost area for leaves, no burning of leaves? I don't understand why we have to leave so much gray area. If we just say no burning leaves, then they know they need to take their leaves to compost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to, because we have to field all these questions, and then we got to talk to Ed about it, and then he's like, well, what exactly does the ordinance say? And then he's like, well, what is season, not that he'll ask this, but just an example. What does seasonal falling leaves mean? It's not the fall, it's the winter and they're burning, it's the summer and they're burning, or it's the spring.
Right.
So I feel like that's one of the biggest problems with the book of ordinances, which I'll get into here in a minute when it's my turn, but is the gray area in all these ordinances.
Yeah.
And the lack of them being updated.
No, I do agree. It's you are walking a fine line of, you want enough space to be able to enforce something, because while the seasonal fallen leaves, that could very much weigh against you, and someone could try to get a little smart with the loopholes. I think it's a pretty clear argument. The leaves are falling in a seasonal pattern. It doesn't matter when they fall seasonally. But on the flip side, I get what you're saying. I want to leave enough room that you can enforce it and have enough space to be able to enforce something without someone saying, well, it says that, you can only burn pine leaves, and we have, they're pine needles. Like, I don't want someone nitpicking that discrepancy, because
neither does Ed.
People will always nitpick.
Right.
So like you said, probably a broader conversation of what are our goals with the ordinances on the whole. How much clear direction do we want to have, and are we okay with sometimes a situation may not fall, and I think we're already there. We may not have an enforceable ordinance to cure the issue at hand, but we might have to put one in place or something like that.
Because the state already has an ordinance on burning trash, correct?
Correct. The biggest issue.
I don't like ordinances per se like this, because I'm one that I don't want to tell you what to do on your own property
Right.
type of person.
Right.
And if the state ordinance already covers the burning of trash, which is the whole reason why we started it,
Yeah.
I don't know why we have to make it.
Which I think that's why we don't have an ordinance for it. Is because the state covers it.
My thought with putting it in ours explicitly was giving an enforcement route for the town of Rossville. That we can fine you according to our ordinances if you're doing this.
What's the enforcement for the state? Is it IDM or?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest. I would have to look
I would think it'd be IDM.
because I don't know.
There's
I don't
a
know.
problem Because IDM to come out here taking
Right.
somebody for burning trash. You're
Right.
probably not gonna get it. So I guess I'm saying that's why I agree with what she's saying. So,
Because I'm generally I would fall, more in the camp of I don't want to rule with an iron fist and explicitly say you can't ever, burn anything. And the list of exceptions sometimes I think Noblesville, for example, like you had to even have technically you were even supposed to have a permit from the fire marshal to host some sort of a bonfire. Or roast hot dogs on an open sort of pit, not a pit, but like an open burn, and that feels very burdensome for a small town. Yeah.
I think that's probably why the ordinance book wasn't kept up for that part, because you had the one person who drug their leaves to the road and then lit them on fire in the road.
Right.
And so then they added that ordinance.
Yeah.
So then when people were looking up ordinances, all those people that have all that time on their hands,
Yeah.
were like, well, it doesn't say anything about well, it's because it's the state law.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
some Larry Loophole tried this, so then they made an ordinance. I don't know who made it. It could have been 100 years ago. But so they made an ordinance to combat Larry Loophole over here. But at the same time, now it looks like that's the only thing you can't do.
Right. Yeah.
where do you live at?
To the common man. What?
Where do you live at?
Larry Loophole on 26. Well, no, on a highway. It could have been 39. You weren't here when Larry Loophole did that?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, I was wondering who it was. But apparently that's what happened. It could be urban legend. But they said he drug his leaves to the road, and it says you can't burn them on your property, and that was not his property.
Yeah.
So Chad didn't come around in the back truck fast enough, or Sean, and he lit them on fire, which is funny,
Yeah.
but frowned upon.
Yeah. But it's also
You're burning on the state highway.
very annoying. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I think this is probably the opening of the door to a much broader conversation of what do we want these ordinances to look like? What are our goals with all of this? And at least, at a bare minimum, it would give me a frame of mind in going into, okay, even if we don't do a whole overhaul, if we just, as we address them one by one, gives me a frame of mind of where we at, because this is my stab at it. This does not at all mean it's a representation of what the town of Rossville's stab at it is. That's all I've got.
That's it.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
Mhm.
As you know, we changed banks to Farmers Bank. We're getting significantly more interest on our money now.
Mhm.
And Brooke came up with the idea, which I liked, is once we get this project with the water mains, obviously we'll probably have to borrow some money. Can we use the interest off of that to pay that?
I don't see why you couldn't. I will.
Because some of it's restricted funds that we're getting money on, some not.
Yeah.
I mean, I brought that up to one individual. He said, "Oh, you can't do that." And I thought, "Well, okay, tell me why." And, but
I thought
Well, it depends on where
where is the interest going? When you receive it, when you receive that interest, is part of it going into the water department? Because I know it's a money market account, right?
Yeah.
So part of that money is water department money, I'm guessing. I think that where they're probably debating it with you is because if it came from wastewater, if that interest came from wastewater, you can't spend wastewater on water.
Because
Yeah,
it's
but how
all
can you
held in
break
one
that down?
account,
Because
right?
It's
Yeah.
one lump sum. How can you break that down?
Well, I guess my
Does
question
that help
is,
now that we have one bank account instead of three?
where is all the interest going?
We don't know yet because we haven't even gotten that yet.
That's
Because we just moved it over.
I'm not-
In August, there'll be a statement in August.
that would be a statement.
But where will these gnats come from?
Because that's always the
You
hot
should shower
spot.
with
It's like 3 of them coming my way.
To give you a comparison, you can look at that financial thing, and say, well, just take some money out of wastewater
But you
and
can't
put
do
it
that,
on
can
it.
you?
You can't.
Right.
So
But the interest is coming off of all the
One
everything.
account, yeah.
Do we have a way to allocate where and identify where the interest is coming from? I mean, will you have, is that
I can find out.
possible?
So I won't receipt it in until I know.
Yeah.
That way,
'Cause
if we can use it, that'd be great.
I'll
And
talk-
then we
We're
wouldn't
just
have to
trying-
raise.
We're just trying to keep from having to raise water bills again to help cover that
Yeah.
Right.
amount.
Right.
And we're getting this extra
Or at
money.
least not much.
Yeah,
If we can combat it.
a small amount would be, we don't want a $20 raise when we could possibly do it, a $2 raise.
Okay.
So,
I will talk to Jay Moore, who does a lot more. He does a lot with the Farmers Bank just anyway, so he's got a little bit better idea of that. And he also represents, I think, the town of Kirkland, so he may have a little bit better
okay.
insight on that.
All right. Brooke.
Okay, let's talk about ordinances.
Oh, no.
Okay, no, I do have a question. So I talked to Tara at the Kirkland Town Hall. She's the clerk treasurer there. She says, now, last year they had, she said something about our ordinances, and I said, I think we've only done 3 or 4. She said, no way. And this was like maybe October. She said, we did 6 last month. And I'm like, 6 new ordinances? She goes, yeah. And that's like average. And I don't know it's 6 average a month, but that's like she said you can't be right. And we did. We had I think 5 or 6 for the whole year. Well, they had 6 for a month. So they use American Legal Publishing, which so do we. And I talked to them. I called them this week and talked to them. And I'm not trying to steal your thunder, Bethany.
You're fine. You're fine.
But I really want your input on this. She said she sends their whole book in and they redo it all. I don't know what's more feasible, paying you every time we have a crisis,
Right.
or sending them that book that they made. They
Yeah.
made the book and saying, update it, get it to with the times,
Yeah.
and then add what Bethany's come up with the 4 or 5 things Bob did last year, and then the new things that we need to add.
Yeah.
Would that be better to do? And then if we have an updated book of ordinances, or do we just want to combat them as they come? I don't care either way. I just don't know what the most feasible thing would be to do, or fiscally responsible thing is to do.
Right. Well, I'll tell you from my perspective, like if I were to be the one going through the ordinances, it would take me forever because it would take large chunks of time. This would be a multi-year project. If you're able to send it off to them and they can comb through it and tell you, hey, there's a lot better way to go about this. I mean, I'm assuming that's what they would do, right? Is that
Yeah.
they would tell you, hey, I think we should narrow this in a little bit and stuff like that. I think you're much more efficient. I don't know what the cost difference would be because frankly,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can give you a great ballpark for what it would cost me to do it.
Right. It's a lot of time for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
might
it's
be a
their
lot of time for them, but they're going to take the whole book and do it all.
Right.
yeah.
And
All
if
right.
if that can be what they dedicate their time to,
Mhm.
you probably are going to be that's going to be a lot more efficient, truthfully.
Okay. Well, I'll do some more research on that then. I'll talk to the guy that I just talked to and have him give me maybe a ballpark estimate on what it would be.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out if we got it in this year's budget or put it in the budget for next year and try to get it updated, whether we have to use her, picking through or not, at least
The other
We can
thing,
get an updated book of ordinance. She said hers, she had it updated when she won the election shortly after, and then every time she gets a new ordinance, she sends it to them and they send her a page
Oh,
to add to the ordinance book. We've never done, well, I haven't done that. So I feel like that's probably
the other
just to get
thing
them in there.
we could potentially look at doing too, as far as like, you know, dealing with stuff on a little bit more case by case basis. Maybe we pick out the things that we anticipate we want a little bit more personalized approach to.
Yeah.
And maybe those are the ones that we select off that, hey, we're gonna handle these or something like that. Because I think even if you have American Legal Publishing do the updates to the book, they redo it all, that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that. We're still going to end up having some of those crisis case by case
Gray area
areas.
ones,
Yeah. And things that we just
Or just new ones that need to be made.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of sending the stuff off to them to officially update it, because that's where I did a lot of my research for even getting this start was American Legal Publishing, and then going to various towns and looking
you
through
said they
there.
originally made the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in
And
that
they're-
format, they would know what they're doing. I
They're
would
a
think.
vendor. I mean, we paid them to do it before. It's just everything's so outdated right now
Right,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
All right.
Depending on
So
cost.
another thing is that I have the clerk treasurer training coming up in August. That's for that. I don't know if we vote on that or not. I mean, it's the annual clerk treasurer meeting.
Is this all one thing?
It's all one thing. We just
Good
have
for
the,
us, look at it.
I know what I'm looking
When
at.
that's
When is
August 10th through 14th. Well, the 10th is a Sunday, but that's when it starts. So I'll be back in the office Thursday afternoon. We'll get out of there at 10 a.m. on Thursday.
Where are you going?
French Lick. Yeah,
Stay out of
finally
the
not
casino.
Muncie. Thank you. I'm kidding. Muncie's fine. It's a nice place. Okay.
We have a town board meeting now in there,
No. Do we?
12.
Gets me out of that. Check. I'm kidding. Was it the 10th to the 14th?
That's what you said, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'll just do minutes I'll watch the video.
Okay.
I'll show Chad how to set it up. He'll be
Yes,
fine.
you will- yeah. You assumed I knew how.
It's easy
Other
peasy.
than I don't, but-
That's just when it wouldn't even start up. Okay, here's the allowance dockets and the accounts payable thing to sign that you sign every month for payroll and checks that went out. And then Sarah put Gaddis Burn House, and she was supposed to put the other Gaddis house that we were talking about. That's the Gaddis Burn House is North Street. But anyhow, the Burn House, I don't know if anybody wants any updates on that, but I talked to the lady. She's got some local guy mowing the yard for now, but they still haven't they've done some cleanup. They haven't removed the car, which isn't really a big deal to me, but they said they would have it out like 2 weeks ago, and they don't.
Is this the one that's in probate, but we've not
Yes.
actually, it's not
Yes.
actually been probated?
Yeah.
We're coming up on a
Yeah. So I don't really know what's going, but supposedly she's had someone that's working with her now. But she also was going to get the car out of there, and that didn't happen. So I don't really know if she's just trying to fend us off, or if she's actually getting help. So as far as the other house goes that we hooked water up, he came and got water hooked up. He's not using any, and he's not using his trash services. So we led the horse to water, but we can't make him drink. The problem the neighbors still have, which they messaged me yesterday, the bugs are horrible. And they are. I dropped my kid off there the other day on the golf cart, and it's just, their head is here and bugs are just swarming all over them. There's 2 holes in the roof, probably 4x6, 6x6 holes in the roof. And there's no coverage of the holes. It's just raining in there. It's so.
And he lives in there?
Mhm. So I don't know what to tell them. I mean, we really did nothing for them, which they were the people complaining, other than make their neighbor pay a water bill.
Right.
Because they got nothing out of it. I mean, they're he's not putting his trash out, trying to get rid of the, what's going on. So
Do you want me to reach?
Like somebody would do that.
County
Yeah.
condemn it?
Well,
I would say the health department.
we tried to,
That was gonna be my.
and we've already talked to them about it. Nash Smith was our contact there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sarah looked to try to find something in our book of ordinances. And that's what she found in the blue. You look at that and tell me if that qualifies. I don't really know.
Yeah. Actually, this was one of the ordinances that when Nash and I had talked about before that he was going to consider using for enforcement.
Yeah.
That he would use his own county health codes and whatnot, but we had talked about this was another route. I mean, I think that's legit, but I also think too, if we go that route, we're going to find him with penalties. We're going to hit him with penalties, and obviously that doesn't seem to be. The water bill technically is some degree of a penalty because he wasn't paying it before. We got that, but
Yeah.
I will reach back out to Nash and see, tell him. I mean, at this point, he's pretty familiar with the situation. See if the bug situation will change things, the holes in the roof, and just see where he's at with it and whether or not we can get help. Because also, frankly, I think twofold. One, that's a more cost-effective option for the town overall.
Nothing to sign there.
And two, I think he's got a lot more teeth than we do.
Yeah. There's a signer on the back of that in there, Stan.
Go back.
Or maybe it's here.
Is this person?
No, there's a
paying
signer, I
their
think,
water
isn't there?
bill?
There's 2 pages. That last group, there was 2 pages to sign. What'd you say, Deb?
Is whoever this person you hooked up the water and stuff with, are they actually paying their monthly bill?
We just now got hooked up.
Yeah, he's paying it. But there's no
Not using it.
usage.
Is this the one?
And he's not using his
That's
trash services either. No.
Okay.
It's right down from it on Gaddis, other side of the road.
Are you required to use all that, or are you just required to pay it?
Not required to use it, but the problem is knowing he's not using it is
Very good.
the problem with the bug situation that the neighbors are saying, because he's throwing his trash in the garage and letting it pile up to where he can't even get his car in there anymore. And it's causing bugs, and
Now, are you
they can't even sit out on their deck because it's like
domain,
you get
something
swarmed.
like that, as far as taking that?
Condemning the house
A health department.
and having him.
So I do have one thing to say that,
Mm-hmm.
okay? It's great you're thinking about that,
Mm-hmm.
but why didn't we do that at the Adams's house? Because I was trying to get that and tear it down,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody ever would. Nobody'd touch it. Because there's something where you just can't necessarily
Yeah.
condemn it,
Right.
the very fine line.
Right.
And you're gonna have to look that up, because otherwise, I
If-
feel like they
Is
would
it
have done
something
over
to
there.
do with somebody living there and not living there? Because I know nobody was living in the Adams house, and then nobody was living down here in this house where they put the dentist office parking lot either.
But
So they
there
couldn't
again,
touch that forever either. But is it because nobody was technically living there? Because somebody's living in that house.
I don't.
I don't
think-
know.
I don't think that matters either way. I think it'd be worse if they were, they're living in it, because then
Yeah.
you could
Right.
go at that,
Yeah.
kind of like, hey, it needs to be condemned because you're living in
Right.
unfavorable conditions.
Yeah.
Squalor.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm just saying that that's never happened before. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think that that's something that would need to happen, because if somebody's not taking care of their property,
Well, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking Nash had even mentioned like maybe we need to get adult protective services involved too. Like we don't entirely know what the situation is there.
But it's a single guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's,
Yeah.
he's
Cat.
working every day at Caterpillar. I don't know how you could.
Yeah, I don't, and that's where it gets
Yeah.
dicey. I don't understand the situation on the whole.
Yeah.
I just told him I'd bring it up again.
Yeah.
See, because really, I mean, for them, nothing got accomplished.
Right.
And obviously he's keeping all of his garbage in his garage, so you can't park his car in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably where all the bugs are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be a health department issue, I would think.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean,
My
this is
Has
it's kind of
he used
ridiculous.
water since he hooked back up?
No.
Well, he was.
He's
'cause
not
he had
even-
a leak.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
and there was no door I could
You
put
call
it
that
on, so I
using
took a
water?
report down
Yes.
showing
We do.
that he was using water every hour since he got it hooked back up.
Yeah.
And then he fixed that. So now
Fixed the leak and now has zero
now
usage.
zero
Not even
Wow.
flushing toilets.
Guys.
Is there a minimum?
Yes.
that we have?
Yeah,
we
he
have to
still
pay?
gets charged a
He
minimum.
he pays his bill. There's a minimum, and then there's the trash and compost bill, and he pays that. But
not using it.
there's no water usage, and he's not using trash services to try to combat the bug problem that the neighbors had. So
Yeah, hopefully we can get something done there on that one, so. Anything else, Brooke?
that's all I got.
Okay. Anything from the gallery here? Open floor? Nope. Okay, good deal.
Well, I could, you were talking about the burn, what do you call that?
Burn house.
Well, no, the pit fires and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Some lots are only 65 feet inside the city in the older portion.
Okay.
So if you're gonna do 35-foot radius, you're gonna take
Be in
some
the
of
middle
those,
of the house.
you're gonna take some of those lots out,
Then we're
period.
out.
I think right now it's set to is it 80 by 140. I think that's what it is currently.
Right, if you're
I
developing
know, like
something.
yes, the like
But,
a
but you
new.
already have some that are at least 60, minimum 65,
Mhm.
maximum 65.
But that would only be for like uncontained fires. My thought process was that if it's in a contained fire pit, that would be exempt.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Is that you guys okay with that? My thought was just trying to control like the bonfire type situation a little bit.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Every time you say you'll entertain a motion, I seeing a dance.
That's proper. It's what we're supposed to do.
I second the motion.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Okay. Chad, hopefully when they flush the hydrant in front of my place and clean off all that dirt left over from the hole.
Oh, well, hopefully we're gonna sweep.
Yeah, it's pretty,
That way
it's
over.
pretty crowded there now. That and the people putting in
Fiber
detail.
optic.
Yeah, they got the pile there between Dunleavy and Jacoby. Not a big one, but just noticeable.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. I did, recruit somebody to come to a meeting.